Okay. Oh, you're right.
Yeah, let's get coffee.
He's buying that. Fraction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's great.
Yeah, we're good. Wait.
Where do you want me to mention that? So
Okay. Maybe we can restart this right here when we're gonna do the disability retirement application. This part right here. Oh, one more thing. So for the budget,
Yeah.
which is this one, there's no presentation, but if anybody has questions.
Recording in progress.
I'm going to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Retirement for Wednesday, June 3rd, 2026. Linda?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Harris. This meeting is being conducted as a virtual and in-person meeting. So we'll do a roll call of the trustees to confirm attendance. Ms. Loft?
Sorry, here.
And Mr. Raza?
Present.
Ms. Langton? Here. Ms. Fessler?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Present.
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Root? Mr. Pantoja?
Here.
Mr. Robbins?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Green?
Present.
Okay, trustees, please use your raise your hand option to be placed in the queue. At this time, we ask all meeting participants to mute your mic until you're ready to speak. And now we may proceed with the agenda.
And Mr. Moore, if you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Item 4, approval of minutes. I need a motion and a second.
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, Miss Loft,
Aye.
Mr. Raza,
Aye.
Miss Langton, Miss Fessler,
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe,
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Pantoja, and Mr. Robbins.
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously.
In case there's any question, that was for the minutes from May 6, 2026. Public comment. We do have one public comment.
Mr. Lim, if you can approach the podium, you will have 3 minutes to address the board.
Morning.
Go right ahead.
My name is Jimmy Lim. I have studied this CERL 1937 for the last 4 years. I'm here to challenge the decision made in dropping my Plan D to Plan E without my notice, in changing my entry date in July 8, 1991, 31 years ago, to March 22, 1997, 5 years and 8 months taken away from my service credit. So today I'm presenting in 3 minutes that this decision made to drop my Plan E is unconstitutional. I have dug up buried documents. These buried documents are high in materiality because it is a copy of Los Angeles County printing my benefit statement in 1993 of June 30th. And it's, I am in Plan D. And this administrative legal process went through without these documents. The other document that was missing is my contract, which is the member sworn statement of election. CERL 1937 says anybody that makes an election is deemed a member of the retirement plan. That's the law. And the CERL law in Plan B is the Article 1.5, that whoever try to change what cannot win, because Plan D has its own regulatory plan as practiced by California State Congress. It's not to take it down, but it's to let it thrive to produce its future financial stability. In mine, I was in this Plan D for 6 months making contribution. LACERA was exercising this ministerial duty in deducting money, in investing my money to the pension plan, when a government overreach, a government bureaucrat doesn't have no power, no window opening for this intrusion, because it's already planned. The plan is already established, corrected everything. And then 6 months later, he interfered to call it a mistake, to change my plan to temporary, a permanent item to a temporary item with no statutory power at all, just by his being a facility director. And he changed my contributory in that documents that you all have copies of, saying that my contribution was erroneous. Therefore, LACERA, based on that erroneous lie, used this discretionary power to withdraw all my money earned by my own work, my payroll money, withdrew it away without notice. A violation of my Fifth Amendment rights, violation of my 14th Amendment rights. So this case, the decision made to change my Plan D down to Plan E is illegal, changing my entry period from July 8, 1991 to March 22, 1997, 5 years and 8 months later, is illegal. So it's unconstitutional. I'm asking the board to not let me have to go to the court, to not let me have to hire a lawyer for a writ of mandamus, but to change your ministerial duty, I mean, to exercise your ministerial duty to continue this case, to continue my Plan D back way in 19, and reinstate my Plan D, reinstate my July 8 entry, and reinstate my contribution, including Los Angeles County promise of matching this contribution. And I have made an estimate. You can see the whole total value of this case is about $3.8 million after 31 years and a half. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Your case will be considered later. Thank you so much. Okay, we have no other public comment. With that, we're going to go into executive session. We'll need to clear the room.
Recording in progress.
Just real quickly, I have to make an announcement.
Okay.
Ms. Langton recused herself from executive session due to her position with the county council. Where did she go?
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Okay. Executive update.
I think that starts with the LACERA All-Stars. So if we can bring that up. Might have to wait for Linda for a
Okay.
moment.
Here she is. All right, here we go.
There we go.
Now we're up.
All right. So each month we take a moment to recognize LACERA staff who have been nominated by their fellow staff members for going above and beyond the call of duty to help members and help each other. And this month we recognize the folks that you see on your screen there. Selassie Burke, Kyle Kawakami, Melissa Salazar, Miguel Rodriguez, and our rideshare winner is Liping Lee. So thank you very much for everything that you do and helping each other and helping our members. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
So with your permission, we'll continue on with the member spotlight. So we're kind of like on this train of recognizing some of our own staff, because it's interesting to remember that, you know, for all of our members to remember that we're members too. And, you know, I think that's really important because we understand what members go through and how valuable these benefits are. And that's really critical as we move to serve our members. So the spotlight is a way for LACERA to recognize public servants that care for the constituents of Los Angeles County, which we are. It's also an opportunity for all of us to reflect on why we do what we do as we serve our members and empower them to enjoy a healthy and secure retirement. And this month, we recognize Bernie Benefor. Now, Bernie was with us for 26 years. He served in a number of roles while he was here at LACERA. His final role was the Chief Quality Assurance, which is a critical role to make sure that the benefits that we pay our members is correct, and that you know, the contracts and all of this, the data and the service record is correct, so that we can provide the promised benefit. Throughout his time, he served in benefits as the division manager in benefits. He played a key role in revising regulations to create a more equitable basis for calculating previous service purchase. That was a big effort that he did. He's also worked on numerous special projects to improve and make sure that LACERA was remaining compliant. Probably some of his biggest accomplishments, he helped us start the process management group in benefits, which has really been critical to bring all of the member operations groups together so that we're all operating using the same rules and understanding of the benefits and how we do calculations. He was key in that. And just has been a leader of innovation. So he's relocated to Arizona. He has a farm in Arizona up on a hill. And he's looking forward to fulfilling his lifelong dream of living a simple rural life with lots of animals. And that is totally Bernie. I could tell you all sorts of stories, but I won't. So we thank Bernie for his service.
I'll say Bernie will be definitely missed, and he deserves. He owes us a much bigger smile than that in his photo. So we're gonna have to fix that.
Okay, again, good morning, Chair Harris. Good morning, trustees. A few items on the CEO report. If we can go to slide 3, please. So Barry Lou and I concluded our annual state capitol visit on May 5th. It was a very productive visit. We met with 8 legislators throughout the day, and more importantly, met with the Assemblywoman McKenna from the 61st District, which she chairs the assembly side of the Public and Employee Retirement Committee. So I had a productive meeting with her, but also just across the board. I think this is my 4th cycle, Barry and I's 4th cycle meeting with legislators annually, and they're starting to know LACERA, our membership, our governance, and our impact throughout not only the local community, but broader community in general. And a brief tee up for the economic impact study that Barry Lou will present with the Zenith team later on to give you some context in terms of quantitative impact. We also had meetings with Sacramento CEO Eric Stern and as well as CalPERS CEO Marcy Frost. So those are always productive meetings, just sharing insights on their strategic direction, ours, and just comparing notes. So again, appreciate Barry and then our legislative advocate at the state capitol, Naomi Padron, for coordinating those meetings. We touched on this on the IBL meeting. Lifetime maximum is going to increase to 2.25 million for our Anthem participants effective July 1st. And as was discussed in the IBL earlier, we're continuing to provide the county with monthly migration reports that will hopefully provide some level of confidence to continue to not only increase, but ultimately eliminate that lifetime max. So we'll be in those discussions in the summer, Cassandra and I, as well as Siegel with the county so that we can tee up this item for next fiscal year. Also, general elections are in full effect. So 3-year term elections starting January 1st, 2027 through the 29th, December 31st, June 22nd, the candidate filing period ends. We'll continue to update the board on specified dates throughout the calendar year. So certainly look to lacera.gov. I know the communications team, JJ, has made a push in terms of our outreach efforts across several different mediums on making sure that we're publicizing all of the aspects on how to vote for the election. So appreciate his efforts and obviously the collaboration with the county on the election. BOR offsite, again, I just want to thank the trustees from a few weeks ago. Thought it was a really productive offsite. I went back, I always spot check and just listen to the presentations, but also the feedback from all of you in terms of those sessions, both on the AI side. I know there was a lot of discussion there. I will encourage for the Operations Oversight Committee this afternoon, we will have a discussion on AI from a governance perspective. So both from guardrails to risk appetite to really how does that align with us strategically. So we'll go over, Kathy and Chat will be teeing that up with all of you. So really appreciate the engagement there to really set us up moving forward as it relates to our AI strategy collectively. And then also loud and clear on succession planning, some of the comments that were made, and I realized the importance of the DCEO position and how that relates to our succession planning efforts. So that's going to be an engagement over the next year or so with the board to make sure that that level isn't lost in terms of the broader oversight perspective, with the org structure. And then obviously my bandwidth internally, we have a lot. I strongly recommend you look at all the projects that we're not only having to hop or not, but obviously some of the things that we talked about in the offsite. So there's a lot of engagement I'm going to have internally, but I also understand there's an external component in my role and making sure that LACERA has a broader lens outside of just the 4 walls of 300 North Lake. So with that, Chair Harris, I'll certainly, if you can go to slide 4, we will, at good of the order, highlight a few interns that have been onboarded, as well as some new team members. So we'll do that at good of the order. But with that, Chair Harris, I'll stand for any questions.
I have a question. So just to update on the future LACERA boardroom, as I look out and see half of the boardroom standing up in the background rather than having comfortable seats. What's the status on that?
Yes, thank you, Chair Kehoe. So we just had, or Trustee Kehoe, we just had a meeting a week or so ago. So they are working through finalization of the footprint and then ultimately to get the plans over to the city of Pasadena. So I know I don't want to commit to, I know we've had this November, December as a potential date to get the boardroom done. But what I'll do is Ricky and her team, I'll have them provide an update, and if not in July, in August, on where we stand with the boardroom.
Completed?
Yeah, you didn't hear that. I shouldn't have probably said that. I know that was a tentative.
What year?
Date.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so take that back. We'll erase that one. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you very much. With that, we go to item 8, disability retirement applications on consent calendar. We'll start with safety member applications, cases 931E through 952E. I need a motion in a second.
Ms. Proft,
Aye.
Mr. Raza,
Aye.
Ms. Langton.
Aye.
Ms. Fessler.
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe.
Aye.
Mr. Moore.
Aye.
Mr. Rue.
Yes.
Mr. Pantoja.
Aye.
And Mr. Robbins. Passes unanimously.
Next, we have safety, fire, and lifeguards, cases 1109C to 1118C. Need a motion and a second?
Motion.
Okay. Ms. Proft,
Aye.
Mr. Razzo,
Aye.
Ms. Langton,
Aye.
Ms. Fessler,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Pantoja,
Yes.
and Mr. Robbins. Passes unanimously.
And next, we have general members, cases 2164D to 2186D. Need a motion and a second?
Motion. Second.
I'm sorry, was that Mr. Moore for the second? Okay, thank you. Ms. Proft,
Aye.
Mr. Razzo,
Aye.
Ms. Langton,
Aye.
Ms. Fessler,
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe,
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Pantoja,
Aye.
and Mr. Robbins. Passes unanimously.
And lastly, we have general member NSCD's case number 4524. Need a motion and a second?
Thank
I
you.
got the magic words.
Ms. Proft,
Aye.
Mr. Razzo,
Aye.
Ms. Langton. Aye. Ms. Fessler,
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe,
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Pantoja,
Yes.
and Mr. Robbins. Passes unanimously.
Chair, before we proceed,
Yes.
can I ask why we do all of those separately as opposed to just as one item?
I'll give you this pat answer. That's where we've always done it. If someone has a better reason than that, that's how we've always done it.
Okay, well,
It just seems like it's, because sometimes people do pull cases out. It
Right.
just seems like, I don't know. That's how we
but
do
you
it.
could still pull a case out of any one of the, I mean, they're not individual. Oh, yeah. Do you have an answer?
I
Thanks.
might have an answer.
Right.
I agree with Ms. Trustee Harris. It has been the way that we've always done it. And it probably is because we used to do it by paper. And so as you were flipping through the paper, and we have certain a set of numbers that are based on the occupation of the person. So all the sheriffs were on, this certain page. And so it's always been kind of page by page.
But you also, I could vote on the sheriff cases, but not the fire cases. Fire votes on the fire cases. So, and then general I vote on. So I think it's a voting issue.
Okay, thank you.
Searle specifies that there's a fire department trustee and
Sure.
a sheriff.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
That reason does make sense. So
You wanna talk about how you want to-
I'm going to. I might suggest, because we are getting such large volumes of files, that if in the future we could break up the files for the benefit of the trustees reading them into a safety block, a fire block, and a general block. So when they come out to us for us to review, we wouldn't have to spend 10 minutes while the file downloads into our computer so we then can read it, because they're just getting way, way, way too big. So if we could break it into sheriff, fire, in general, that would really help us all and help our computers too.
Okay, we will work on making that happen.
I
That'd be
have a
great.
plan.
Thank you very much. We always have a plan. Okay, next we're into item 9, consent items. I need a motion on consent items A through F.
I'll second.
Ms. Proft,
Aye.
Mr. Razzo,
Aye.
Ms. Langton,
Aye.
Ms. Fessler,
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe, Mr. Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Pantoja,
Aye.
and Mr. Robbins. Passes unanimously.
Item 10, there were no items excluded from consent, means brings us to 11 non-consent items. Need a motion in a second on item A, fiscal year 26-27 proposed administrative and retiree healthcare and other post-employment benefits trust budgets.
Are we gonna have a presentation?
You can, if you need one. If you have questions, we can take them as, okay,
It's a budget, so I would.
all right.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Board. We're here today to talk to you. We will, obviously, if you would prefer the budget, we can put a presentation up for you. We're also standing by to answer question. I think it aligns, especially being the new person here, it aligns very much with our goals and especially our strategic plan and lining those things up, which I'm very impressed with. But I will turn it over to my good partner here, Ricky, and we'll get it loaded up for you.
I'll pull it up. One
Thank
second.
you.
So the presentation initially was myself, Carly, which I believe will have Jessica standing in today, and Kathy. who is here. So as soon as we bring the presentation up, we can do that.
Is this the correct one, Ricky? This is it, right? This is the one you
Yes,
guys.
that's the
Okay.
one. Is that the first slide?
Yes.
That's slide one.
Yes. By 4.
Is there one you want to start from?
If you can start from the beginning.
Okay.
So this is slide one? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so today's presentation provides a high-level overview of the proposed budgets, the governing framework that guides them, how they align with the board's strategic priorities, and the key drivers behind the request. At the conclusion, we'll be seeking your guidance before final adoption. As you know, the board, the JOG seat already did see this presentation, did provide really some questions that we answered, but no changes to this budget. But we obviously can discuss it further today. So I'll begin with the legal authority and budget framework, followed by alignment with the Board of Retirement strategic priorities. We'll then move into the administrative budget, focusing on assumptions and key drivers before transitioning to technology investments, staffing, and then finally, retiree healthcare and the OPEB trust. Can you please advance the slide? Thank you. So LACERA operates under the County Employees Retirement Law of 1937 and functions as an independent governmental entity governed by your boards. All budget decisions are subject to fiduciary standards. Administrative costs must be must be reasonable, necessary, and solely for the benefit of our members and beneficiaries. Statutorily, our administrative budget is capped at 21 basis points of actuarial accrued liability. For fiscal year 26-27, that cap is approximately $209 million. And I want to note up front that the proposed budget remains well below that limit. Importantly, the administrative budget is funded entirely from investment earnings. Next slide, please. This chart shows the overall funding sources that support LACERA's operations. The administrative budget, which supports pension administration. Actually, I'm going to skip down. I already talked about this. We're going to move on to this slide, which is related to the budget development process. This slide summarizes LACERA's annual budget development cycle. Budget planning begins with division level requests aligned to operational needs and strategic priorities, followed by internal review, executive refinement, and committee oversight. Today, we are at the Board of Retirement's request for final adoption. Next slide, please. Before getting into budget detail, it's important to connect the funding request to the board's adopted strategic plan. This dashboard illustrates how the fiscal year 26-27 proposed budget aligns with the Board of Retirement's 5 strategic goals. You'll see progress across strategic objectives and the corresponding budget allocation supporting those priorities, particularly in innovation through technology, superior member experience, compliance, and fiscal durability. The intent is to ensure that the budget decisions directly support strategic outcomes rather than standalone activities. Next slide, please. I'll now turn to the administrative budget, beginning with the assumptions used in building the request. These assumptions reflect how we budget staffing and labor costs. Filled positions are budgeted at current salaries with applicable step and merit increases. Vacant positions are budgeted at step 1 with funding based on anticipated time to hire per LACERA's hiring plan. Consistent with a conservative approach, the budget reflects only approved labor agreements with no assumptions beyond those already authorized. And as you can see, we are going to be reviewing during the mid-cycle adjustment, potentially addition of $6 million, which is the estimated cost of the cost of living adjustments. Next slide, please. The proposed administrative budget for 26-27 totals approximately $151.6 million, representing a modest year-over-year increase of about 3.7%. Increases are primarily driven by services and supplies, including technology-related investments and contractual cost pressures, while salaries and employee benefit growth remains moderate. Overall, the budget continues to balance operational needs with cost discipline. Next slide, please. This slide highlights the primary drivers behind the budget change. On the cost side, we see targeted investments in systems, compliance, and member-facing services. On the offset side, there are reductions in temporary staffing and other discretionary areas. The net effect is a budget that supports execution of strategic priorities while remaining well within statutory and fiduciary constraints. And now I'm going to hand this presentation over to Kathy so that she can talk more about our technology investment.
Thank you, Ricky. So LACERA continues to invest in technology to support both our strategic initiatives and also to explore artificial intelligence and other strategic technologies. We like to go ahead and advance the next slide, please. Thanks. We like to describe what we do in the systems division in two buckets, really. One is running the business and the other one is changing the business. And both of those require support from the budget. We have many strategic initiatives, and investment in technology is only called out in one of them, but every single initiative requires some sort of technology introduction. So with that, I'll go over the ask. So the current fiscal year, the budget for the systems division was 27.2 million. And for next fiscal year, we are asking for 29.5. So that's an increase of 8.4%. Next slide, please. These are the technology projects that I want to highlight. This is not a complete list, obviously, but I'll go through them. These are the ones that support different strategic initiatives. So the strategic initiative of superior member experience, there are several projects. One is the member identity verification. And this really is to strengthen the front door on our member portal. So there are some better practices than what we use now. There's some new technology that we can explore, and we have set aside funding for that. The second one is the member experience communication member operations digital assistant. And this is for the new call center. So we are implementing Genesis, and along with it, we're implementing AI chat capabilities, both live chat and virtual chat. And we're also introducing an agent assist component for our call center. So that's an active project. This is a continuation of that project. The member case management solution. So case management, we have been working on for several years. We're now, we're currently doing phase 2, and we're asking for additional funding to continue through the different phases of this project. The one that is in progress right now is active death, and the next phase will be retiree healthcare, account settlement, and doing additional use cases for death. And most important, we have the LACERA mobile app. It will be a digital platform that our members will use on the device of their choice. So we do have a responsive member portal now, but it's based on a browser. And so members generally don't go to their phones. and open a browser and log in. So it's very comfortable to use on an iPad, on a laptop, but not so much a mobile device. So this will be an improvement in that area, and we're hoping to see a lot more engagement and perhaps fewer phone calls. Next is innovation through technology. This is the strategic initiative that calls out technology. And for that, we have the enterprise knowledge management solution. We're actually in vendor selection for that now. So this is a continuation of that project, and the actual implementation will happen next year. It is one of our core components that will support our agent assist and our chatbot on LACERA and LACERA.com. So this is a foundational project that we're excited about. And then fiscal durability. This one is a really significant project as well. The enterprise resource planning solution, ERP. So we currently have a general ledger system. We use Microsoft Dynamics Great Plains. It is at end of life. And so we have to move off of it. And we're going to take that opportunity to consider a wider selection of features. In the last 4 years, we have stood up bridge solutions to automate different activities on the administrative side, our budget system, our vendor management system, our automated AP, endorse. They are considered bridge solutions. And when we introduce the ERP to replace Great Plains, we'll have the opportunity to either integrate those or migrate them to the ERP solution. So in the budget, we're asking for a consultant to come in and guide us through the RFP process. Our goal is to select a vendor by next spring so that the following fiscal year, we can do the implementation. This is a significant implementation because it affects so many different divisions, and there is a lot of integration required with the solution that we pick. Next slide, please. Okay, this is my last slide, and this is really to highlight 2 of the projects that we had asked for funding for last year. So these, the first one is our enterprise business intelligence project. We ask for additional funding for temporary staffing. We do have contractors and systems that sit against vacant positions that we haven't filled yet. These contractors are different in that they're temporary just for the project. So highlighting a few achievements this year, we were able to successfully recruit these individuals. They're fantastic. They are working out really well. We've selected the tools that we're using. The data lake was optimized. We worked on branding, and then we have addressed dashboards for 4 of our divisions. So the goal is each quarter to deliver dashboards for 3 divisions. So this is a very significant project because we are trying to get dashboards to all decision makers. I know you've heard me say this before, but we have data, we have reporting, but it's scheduled and it's emailed. So when I receive the email, I don't need the data. When I need the data, I can't find the email. So it gets rid of that problem. It also allows real-time information. So for, let's say, member services, when Tatiana is managing the call center, she has a report on what people called about, but it's yesterday. So the idea is make sure she has it. She and her team have dashboards so they can see real time. What are people calling about? You know, maybe we need to put a message on LACERA.gov in order to eliminate some of these calls. Whatever triaging needs to be done as well. So just highlighting that, we'll continue working on that, and we have asked for this funding to continue for those contractors. The second one is mainframe migration, and it's no surprise that we still have a mainframe. I've talked about it before. The real reason for this migration is return on investment. We're spending a lot of money on the mainframe for a relatively small workload. So we did a big mainframe migration in the mid-teens, like 2014, 15, 16, and we took the bulk of the activity off of the mainframe, but we left some things there. And so we're migrating them. We were able to procure the resources for this as well. They've been onboarded. They're working out great. And they are working on 1.5 million lines of COBOL code to move it over. This is probably the most exciting use of AI right now at LACERA. And we will be getting back to you with what our output is. We're still experimenting with the model to optimize what that migration looks like. But we've already migrated 6 workloads, and we'll be adjusting our overall project plan once we have that metric down. The AI tools are changing so fast that I would say 8 months ago, we were still doing the migration manually. And then 6 months ago, everything changed. And so you know, the analysts that are working on the project came to me and said that what used to take them 2 weeks, they can now do in 2 hours. So the work that they're doing is faster, but the type of work that they're doing is changing. So they're optimizing the agents and rather than reading COBOL code. So it's really exciting. And the team is excited about it. They're not pushing back because they're still, you know, they're still producing good quality solutions. And I think as developers and analysts, that's what they want to do. They don't actually have to be doing the tedious code that writes the log file and the audit trail that they've done a million times. So super exciting. And so with that, I'll just pause and answer any questions you might have about the IT budget.
Oh, about the IT budget? No, I have
Oh,
a
okay.
question about
Or-
the general budget when we're done.
Yeah.
Or when you're ready.
We can take questions.
On slide 10, there's a universal warning caution sign at the bottom that talks about the pending MOU costs not being included in the budget. And then it says something like it can be absorbed with the 25-26 budget. So I just wanted to understand first, just to confirm that it doesn't, you know, take us to the 21%. And second, how it would be absorbed in the past, I guess, what day is it? June 1st? I guess we're still in the 25-26 budget. If we've already approved that budget. So I just wanted to get an idea of how that works.
Okay, so yes, in general, we have cost savings due to vacancies year over year, and we're generally under budget for salary and employee benefits. Because we can't anticipate in budget, this budget's built really early in the year. I think it might have been like February when it was being built. We didn't know exactly when the cost of living adjustments would hit our budget. Potentially this year, this fiscal year, which ends June 30th. If it were to hit this fiscal year, we have money to cover the approximately $6 million, right? If it doesn't hit this year, which I'm anticipating at this point, it's not going to hit this year. It'll probably hit next fiscal year. If we cannot absorb it with cost savings based on our projection and spend down where we are mid-year, we're going to come back to the board during our mid-year adjustment and ask for additional funds.
Mid-year adjustment, meaning December?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and Trustee Langston, I'd love to say we hire like in a timely manner, right? But so there's that higher lag that even when you look at like a traditional time to fill, if you say whatever it is, and I know we're going to show 81 days and there's a mathematical way we get to that, and I understand how we get to that. But even if you just use that number, you got now 3 months of somebody's employee salary to start paying for that based on the number of vacancies we have. So I think we'll be okay to cover that cost. Would I like to fill jobs faster and eat up some of that overhead? Yes, because we know people are doing that work. But as we transition some of this stuff, we'll get there.
Thank you. Thank you.
So if we can, any other questions before we jump to DHR? Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ms. Fessler.
Thank you. I raised this issue at our offsite, but I'm interested in information about the outside counsel fees. I see that there is a proposed a $500,000 reduction from, was it from what was budgeted last year, this current year, as opposed to what was spent?
Well, the reduction, I believe, is being requested because the significant portion of those fees came from the county litigation, which is going to end. So we
Okay.
don't need to budget that $500,000. This, and Steve is able to come up, but I believe that's the reason why he's requesting less money.
What I'll say generally on consultants is we're really taking a hard look at, do we need a consultant? And if we do, then yes. But if we don't, then we're going to try not to use outside consultants. It doesn't, if we're talking fiduciary law or if we're talking any other services, right? It's really the strategic look and say, hey, do we really need this function or do we have it inherently in-house? And for the legal side, obviously I will defer to Steve because he's the expert in that area. But I think holistically across the board, we're going to take a very hard look this year at it and say, what do we really need to make sure we're using it effectively and getting the biggest bang for our buck?
Okay, and so this reduction doesn't impact the use of fiduciary count, what we refer to
Yeah,
as fiduciary counsel,
it
it's really
does.
just, it does
It
as
does.
well?
Let me clarify.
Okay,
The county litigation, the cost budgeted for that were substantially reduced last year because we were into the appellate phase. We're really in the waiting period for the
Right.
Supreme Court argument. So that reduction really was primarily absorbed last year.
this current fiscal,
But
when you say last year, you mean 25,
the
26, right?
the
Yeah,
current year.
okay.
However, there was an offsetting budgeted increase in fiduciary counsel because of significant projects that were in the pipeline. Next year, we know that as of now, that those projects are either going to be resolved this fiscal year or going to be wrapped up early in the next fiscal year. And therefore, the most of that is attributable to fiduciary counsel. There is some attributable to the county litigation, but we're at the very end of that.
Yeah.
So, and we have been for a while.
Okay.
So the major portion of that, probably 2/3 of it, is fiduciary counsel.
Okay, thank you. And then the next to that, on the right-hand side, on the, Steve, hang on, because maybe we need this too. It says minus 20.3%. I don't know what that means. It doesn't, well, let me back up. Does it mean on the slide where it says minus 20.3% that the $500,000 reduction is a 20% reduction in your overall?
Yes, because we budgeted, I think $2.4 million this year, something like that. And this for next year, we're budgeting, I think, $2.1 million, something like that. Ricky will have the exact numbers. I'm doing it from memory, but that's the kind of the order of magnitude. So we will be budgeting less for outside counsel, and it will be a 20% reduction from what we budgeted this year.
So we're anticipating using $2 million in outside legal services?
Yes.
And what, can you summarize for me what we need outside and why you believe it's more appropriate to use outside counsel rather than enhance your staff?
We have 2 pieces of employment litigation that will be tried next year. We do have a self-insured retention, but the self-insured retention is $500,000 per case. So we have to pay fees up to that amount. That's a significant part of it. We also have fiduciary counsel in there, which is still going to be probably $400,000 to $500,000 versus $1 million this year. And then there are employment claim investigations, which are done by outside counsel, independent investigators, but they're attorneys. I think those are some of the main categories. I can get you a more detailed breakdown.
I'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
But
Thanks.
that's a sense, kind of directionally of what's going to happen next year.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay.
All right, moving along to HR. I think our 3-year trends, and remember this chart was built in April, so I just want to put a little bit of caveat around that because if you look at our FY 25 to 26 actual, you can probably add about another 20 to 22 hires that we made with the new RBS class that just started, and myself and a couple others. We're going to get pretty close to that 60 projection. We may not get there, but I think we're moving in the right direction. As we look at that, I mean, the good news that you look at this chart is, especially with the changes, is that we're keeping up with the cost of attrition, which I think is very important for an organization. We still have a way to go for that way to get there, and we'll continue to work there. We're going to always look at time to fill and really look at how we can improve time to fill, because we recognize when somebody's not doing a job, that work still has to continue. So we'll continue to look at that. I think 81 days is very good. But I also know the math that goes behind that. And there's some ways we still can improve on that 81 days to drive that down even further for the team. So if we can go to the next slide. This is probably the best news slide that I say. We don't have a problem attracting people to come work for us. That's a great news. So now it's not a quantity issue, it's a quality issue, making sure that we continue to make sure we're getting the quality candidates, not just a quantity of candidates. And I think, especially when you look down in investments and member services, you see that drive that we're getting. And I think that's a really good news for all the work that this board and the staff that's come before us has done to make sure that we get the right candidates that we're looking for. Next slide. So this is our traditional staffing key performance indicators. You see that we're moving above attrition, and that's really good. You see a little bump in attrition this year. I think that was the spike in retirements that we had a little bit this year. We expect that to go back to what I would say is our traditional norms in the out years. But as we move forward, I think we're moving positive in that direction. Next slide.
Next slide.
Next slide. Again, same thing here. When you look at where our retirement age was this year, we had a little bit of a spike. You see a little higher age, which is typically which drove that increase in the number of people retiring. Typically, we're right around 62 this year. We're almost at 65 years per age, plus service credit. So I think what you're going to see as we go back, we'll go back to traditional attrition when it's tied to retirement, and then normal attrition that we're seeing in the organization as a whole. Next slide. Again, we forecast retirements. These things it's a little bit of a game trying to understand where we're going to get to as we look into the out years out to 2030. You see that number grows, but just to put a little bit of a caveat on this slide, the number increases as you go up. So if somebody doesn't retire in 26, they pop into that 27 category. So it's that's typical, not unusual. So I think we're in a good position for our workforce, but also, as we talked about earlier, succession planning is always important, and we're really investing in that and moving forward with that plan. Next slide. And then I'll turn it back. Any questions on HR? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll resume with the retiree healthcare benefits program budget for fiscal year 26-27. The proposed operating budget totals approximately 13.8 million and supports the administration of retiree healthcare benefits for eligible members. The budget is funded through administrative fees paid by plan sponsors and participants and is separate from the administrative budget funded by investment earnings. If there's no questions, we can go on to, yes.
The previous question, sorry. Slide 19, you were saying that we attract a lot of applicants, but but in 25-26, we had less applicants than last 24-25?
Yeah, it's also due to the number of applications. So when you look at your applicant pile, it's tied to the number of announcements we've done too. So there's a nuance there. But when I look at this, especially coming from outside in, that number looks very healthy. Forget there, and the nuances that are slightly lost, they're very more tied to the number of recruitment actions we've done in those areas.
Okay, that makes sense. Because I also saw, I forgot which slide it was, but 25-26, there was less money spent on recruitment. So I don't know if why that.
So that's,
I forgot which slide it was, but I saw it somewhere.
I think I know. I think what you're seeing is with the higher attrition that we had, we spent less dollars on people for the year. So that's why I think you saw a little bit less than that. I think as we get back to normal, and we hired a lot really at the end of the fiscal year, it's going to close that gap for you as we move into the next year.
And I'm sorry, could I go to slide 11 too? I was going to save my questions to the very end, but I realized we're doing it piece by piece. Slide 11, can you just quickly explain? So the salary changes, permanent county temp, it increased because we are hiring more permanent county temp, and then the agency temporary, we're using less of the outside company. That's why that went down, right? Mm-hmm. So that pretty much negates it. And then intern program, why did the intern program cost go down?
My understanding this year is we have the intern program that is still running, and we have 14 interns. I believe 2 divisions did not request interns this year
Mm.
for very specific reasons. I'll speak specifically for myself. Administrative services did not, for example, request an intern this year because we're going to be onboarding approximately 10 new staff members, and onboarding new staff are our priority. Interns take a significant amount of work to give orientation and mentor and support and guide. And I don't think we'd be doing them a service if we can't give them the attention they need while we're onboarding our new staff.
Yeah.
So that's just to give you an example, but the intern program is still thriving. It's still a priority for us. And over the next couple of years, you will see us again resume requesting interns.
Yeah, so I just want to make a comment. I know our internship program is outstanding, and I know it's very, very competitive. I've met a lot of interns at your request to talk to them. I thought they were very outstanding. I would love a robust, even more robust intern program. I'd rather have a more constant savings on that piece. And I know I remember when I was managing my office. Staff did not want to have interns because it is a lot of work, but it is an opportunity. It is an opportunity for the young folks. So I don't want to be prescriptive, but as to the best of all the departments hearing, if you could try to figure out to have an intern or have an extra if there's room, that would be, I think, very beneficial to the students. Thank you.
Great.
Just, I hope I'm not putting the cart before the horse. We're just getting into the RHC benefits program and stuff like that. I just had a question. I mean, obviously the year over change for the budget, that's the total amount, correct? The 629, does that have to do with anticipated actuarial premium costs, or is it strictly just the SNS and the S&B?
You're talking about retiree healthcare?
Correct.
There are
this
is Cassandra here?
Flash pay.
And then, and that leaves my other thing, that the OPEB, it shows a reduction with a reduction in S&B. And this is the staff, correct, if I remember, this is the staff that's managing.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's
What page are you referring to?
it's 153 out of 792.
No, it's
At the
on
bottom of
this.
the.
24, 25. If you expand on that, because is it because staff is not present, or?
No, so to that end, through the chair, so the administrative budget for RHC is allocated through the administrative fee that Ricky mentioned. So this is outside of the normal premium cost. So this is just strictly staff and then any consultant type of engagement. So I think you see the decrease here, and I think we've highlighted it maybe in a future slide where the consultant spend is going to be a little bit less. So I think that's what's attributed.
So I just can give you some details, because I think your question is what's the increase related to for the $629,000, right? And that is specifically related to the OPEB valuation that has to happen this year, as well as special retiree mailings have increased and agency temps have increased. So those were the significant drivers of the increase for retiree healthcare.
So that S&B is not just, that includes all hands working on it, consultant, internally, otherwise.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And it's also made up of any divisions outside of retiree healthcare that has a supportive role. So for instance, FASD, the executive office that spends time on the program. So we allocate that and ultimately derive that a budgetary dollar amount.
And because they're separate. So the SNS then, is that going to the IT, obviously we're not buying paper clips, right? This is some of that SNS is being thrown into the IT segment as part of the aggregate, right?
So we capture any division that has a supportive role to RT. So we capture those hours. We capture that activity as part of our budget makeup for RHC across the organization.
And gotcha. You answered the OPEB, the year over change with the reduction of 102 is consultant fees and whatnot, right?
Correct.
Okay.
The increase is what Ricky just mentioned, but in terms of the OPEB study that needs to be done.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you. I know our presentation isn't over and we got some more slides to go, but this is the most critical thing that we do is looking at this budget and approving this budget. So I appreciate the presentation, and we should always have that every time in here. I know that the jog seat goes deeper and more in depth and gets into the weeds, but we should always in the boardroom have this discussion. I just want to say I support what David mentioned about with the interns, and maybe we should look at having an intern coordinator for all of LACERA, hire a single employee that's responsible for managing it to take away some of the administrative burden of having interns, but can still have them exposed to individual divisions, and even possibly have some that would be rotating. I know that in some capacities, like investments, you're going to keep them in the investment office, but there might be an opportunity to have them rotate around and do things like that. I don't think, although I totally understand what you're saying, I don't think that we as an organization from an executive level should support the fact that it's too much work to have interns, because that's our future. So, so that's my thoughts on it.
So let me comment on that. Yes, we're going to have interns and we're going to have a robust program. I support it. As somebody started an intern program to get their start. Yes. I think we're in a little bit of transition period where we had a little bit of a hiccup this year, but I think as you go into next year and definitely into the out years, you'll see that come back with a full blown where we are, and hopefully better too, right? Because that is our future at the end of the day.
All right. Is there more? Who's next?
I think I was.
Yeah,
gonna
I
say,
think.
I can go through the OPEB budget numbers, but they're there for you, the proposed OPEB trust operating budget.
Right. If anyone has any questions on OPEB,
Seven
yeah,
is
Mr. Rue.
approximately 1.2 million. And these funds support the administrative and oversight of the trust, which pre-funds retiree health, dental, and death benefits. And the Board of Investment serves as trustee and investment manager for the OPEB trust assets. And in summary, the proposed 26-27 budgets reflect a disciplined fiduciary approach that aligns resources with our strategic priorities and continued service delivery, maintains compliance with statutory limits. All three budgets, the administrative, retiree healthcare, and OPEB trust, are structured to support long-term sustainability while remaining responsive to operational needs. The recommendation before you is to review and approve the proposed budgets and recommend approval before June 30th.
Mr. Rue.
Yeah, sorry, just a quick comment or, I appreciate all the report and how well you guys are doing in hiring and attrition and all of that. And I know you're said you're investing a lot in the in tech and AI. I just wanted to just make one comment that, one of our key features and positivity of LACERA is our staff, right? Especially the benefit staff, right? And every time I refer somebody or some county employee over, they call me back and say, oh my God, this person was so great. So as much as I know it's all about tech and AI these days, but yes, please, let's be efficient as possible and use AI, but let's try not to replace human beings, because I think people still like to talk to somebody on the other side of the phone. And call centers, again, I'm sure you guys will do a great job in vetting it out and figuring out what's the best cost-effective way for LACERA to operate. But I really don't like overseas call centers. I know we don't have that, but if we ever think about doing that, I hope there's a really good reason why, because I think our staff is our strengths. So let's use AI tech to augment whatever they're doing, but let's at the very last resort, replace them.
Yeah, I concur with that statement. And I will tell you what I've learned so much is AI is going to be a tool for us, but there's still going to be a human making those decisions at the end. And so while we use these tools, we're going to highlight our staff to keep them going, but also give them tools to be a little more efficient and effective as we can.
So I appreciate that question in those comments. I know that was really emphasized at the offsite, that these are tools, we're going to make us more efficient, but we aren't getting rid of our human beings, because we need human beings and they need to be here. So, but thank you. We always need to keep that at the forefront of what we're doing. So thank you. Anyone else have questions? questions? I'm looking. Oh, yes, go ahead.
You know, I don't want to take this to a whole nother level, but I will. So about the interns, I'm hearing from my co-trustees that there's a lot of pressure for that. I respect your decision so much because our members come first. And if we can't train those 10 people properly and we're going to give them half training and give the interns more hanging out than attention, I completely understand and respect your decision to skip this year. And I think it was the right decision. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
Can I move approval?
I think we need a motion and a second to adopt the budget.
I move approval.
Okay.
Who made the second?
Who made the
Mr.
second?
Reza, okay. Can I ready? Ready? Ms. Proft?
Aye.
Mr. Raza?
Aye.
Ms. Langton?
Aye.
Ms. Fessler?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Pantoja? And Mr. Robbins? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Really appreciate it. Item B, Sacramento Board of Directors election. Unless we have questions, you all got that in your packet. It's pretty self-explanatory what's going on. But if you have questions, we'll entertain them right now. But if not, I'll ask for a motion in a second.
I so move. Lisa Croft.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Proft?
Aye.
Mr. Raza?
Aye.
Ms. Langton?
Aye.
Ms. Fessler?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe? Mr. Moore? Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Pantoja? And Mr. Robbins? Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. That brings us down to reports. We do have two more presentations. A is the COVID-19 causation and disability presentation. Dr. Hirsch.
They're bringing him in,
Here he comes.
and I'll do a quick intro.
Sure, absolutely.
Get going. Quick intro.
Right ahead.
Right, thank you. Trustees, I'd like to introduce one of our board certified internal medicine specialists, Dr. Jeffrey Hurst. He has extensive experience in med legal evaluations and independent medical examinations. He serves as an agreed medical evaluator as well as an independent medical evaluator in complex disability and workers' comp cases. He has also been an esteemed panel physician for LACERA for over 20 years. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Jeffrey Hirsch, and he'll be presenting today on COVID-19, causation and disability.
Thank you very much. And it's nice to see everybody again. Some of you I know. I think I come here about every 5 years. So it's twice a decade that y'all can tolerate me. Thank you. Thank you. And it's my honor to have been, as she said, working with LACERA for, I believe, 21 years now. And if I may just, be obsequious for a moment, I see a lot of patients in the work comp system, and then, a relatively small number of IME patients through LACERA. It's always magnificent how professional you all are. I have everything I need in the chart. I don't think there's been one case in 21 years where I did not have something that I should have to do my work that you all need for your work. So I just really appreciate your professionalism. I think every single patient is positive about their interactions with you when the issue comes up and I make some comment. Yeah, aren't they really great to deal with? Aren't they knowledgeable? Really. So congratulations to you all for being part of what I think is an amazing, effective part of our county. So, and I guess 21 years, let's say a quarter of it, COVID has been an issue. And I believe I've seen more than 600 long COVID patients in the work comp system, probably about 75% police officers and firefighters, as you all recall, not able to protect themselves very well when the pandemic was at its most intense. And then probably 25% of the patients I've seen, pretty much anyone you could imagine, grocery store workers, teachers, nurses, respiratory therapists, physicians, other individuals who contracted COVID because of work. And of course, the people I've seen, unfortunately, 6 or 7 or 8 death cases where I'm just receiving the records. And then the whole gamut of minor stuff, my throat won't clear, I'm clearing my throat, my smell doesn't work, my taste doesn't work, the kind of very minor but bothersome long-term effects of COVID, all the way over to several lung transplant patients, extreme illness, strokes, the whole range of fairly minor COVID-related stuff to catastrophic. So I do think I have a lot of experience viewing this viral infection through the lens that you all need in your work to figure out what happened to these people, why it happened, and are they able to continue in their careers. So let's see, how do I work this? Is it a swoosh? Is it a sweep? Oh, next slide, please. I don't mind doing it myself. Is there a... No, I guess I can't. So, okay, right. And I don't want to get too academic with y'all. I mean, just to let you know that it's so scary. There could be more, right? There's lots of viruses. There's lots of coronaviruses. And then, yes, apparently people around the world are experimenting with them and altering them. So unfortunately, there's a recurring pattern of respiratory tract viral illnesses that strike humans. Some of you may remember MERS, M-E-R-S, that is very similar to COVID. So perhaps all of us getting better at dealing with this. Unfortunately, we may need to again in the future. Next slide, please. And again, for the science-minded amongst us, there is that little beast. Actually, it's not a living organism, unlike a bacteria. A virus is not actually alive, but there's the structure of it. You can see how brutal it is to try and stop this type of infection. Its size is in the nanometer range, right? So it's much smaller than the pores on any type of mask that any human can put on. So either a person needs a negative pressure like a space suit, that'll keep it out, but any type of mask, a microbe this small can penetrate the pores. Next slide. Right, and I guess this is why I'm here, right? And I think I have one patient I'm seeing right now through LACERA, and here's the issue. The issue of causation has risen up, and I think in my initial report, I didn't quite get the details that I believe are warranted. And Ms. Barrett, wrote me an excellent, intelligent, right-on letter, and I've got more information that bears on the question. This is often really difficult, and out of those many patients I saw in the work comp system, probably 6 or 7 times, I deferred to the trier of fact because I just simply could not find an avenue of analysis that led me to the capacity to make a conclusion based on probability, which, as you know, is my challenge in work comp, reasonable medical probability. So, and likewise, I believe there's one case I've done with LACERA where I deferred to the board. I don't know. Here's what happened. Here's the information. I can't say I defer to you. So, of course, in some cases, causation is literally impossible to establish based on facts, based on evidence. But usually, if we're using a threshold like probability, usually an evaluator can arrive at an evidence-based conclusion. And I should say that before COVID, as an internist practicing in medical legal type work here in Los Angeles, certainly the issue of infectious illness was not new to me, right? I mean, doctors who are providing medical legal analysis in workers' compensation, let's say valley fever. I'm from Louisiana. I didn't know anything about valley fever growing up, but yeah, it's brutal. And as you know, you can even get it in your yard in Van Nuys or in the valley. You don't have to be in Kern County or in Fresno to get valley fever. So those issues would come up. I believe I had a case of mononucleosis in a social worker some years ago who was visiting a child in the family, and the child was ill and seemed a pretty strong chain of causation there for Epstein-Barr virus. So the issue of infectious disease has been something that internists practicing in this arena have visited now and again, but of course, nothing like the volume of cases that started to present to my office in, I would say, almost exactly 6 years ago now, probably July or August of 2020 is kind of when I started seeing the patients, since the infections really started to explode, February and March 2020. So often I see situations in which there aren't that many details available. And it's interesting to me, I think I was speaking with a couple of the folks I got to go around and say hi to this morning. I think, the wave of cases, of COVID cases that I saw in my practice has definitely ebbed. I would say, obviously, started building up in 2020 and then peaking by late 2021, 2022, and still seeing a lot of COVID patients in 2023. And then probably starting, I could look back at the data, but I didn't for this talk, probably mid 2024, late 2024 is when I definitely started to see a decline in the volume of cases I was seeing in the work comp system. And now it's dropped off to a very low number, but it seems like now I'm catching more cases through LACERA. And I guess that makes a lot of sense to all of you, because there is a time lag between people getting ill and people trying to recover, and then the reality of the situation apparent that the person's not able to continue working, and then meeting with LACERA representatives and filing the case. So I guess it kind of makes sense to those of you with larger knowledge of these systems that the volume of patients with COVID-related claims would still be perhaps building for you in your work, or perhaps steady for you in your work. In my work comp work, it's really dropped off a cliff. Good. So quite often there's not much information available. We have even now the few cases that I am seeing as an AME, infections that occurred in 2021, 2022. Well, yeah, I hope all of you are having a sharper memory in your last 30 of your lives than I am, but yeah, I mean, details from 2021 and 2022. Okay. I mean, I can come up with some things, but it's pretty hard for most people with busy lives to come at you with, oh, this is what my son was doing, and then my wife was in this spot in her work, right? So a lot of times we're reaching back to events that occurred 5 years ago, and I am frustrated as the medical legal evaluator that I can't get more details, but nonetheless, that's the reality. And I'm sure if those of you who are dealing with COVID cases with LACERA are seeing that in some cases you have really crisp, plentiful information about relative risk of different types of exposures. In other cases, it's a fairly vague story that the member is offering. So I do try to drive down on these issues in this slide. What was this household's habits as far as the lockdown that we were all experiencing starting mid-2020? Was there another member of the household working? What was going on with children? Obviously quite different depending on their ages. And so I believe a good report, and thanks to Ms. Barrett's letter, my collection of information on the case in question is stronger now. So a good report is going to really delve pretty deeply into these questions, potential exposures in the home, that person's habits. And look, it gets harder and harder as the pandemic progressed, because all of us, I believe, lightened our adherence to these hardcore restrictions on our activities. We lightened those starting in 2022 and 2023. So sure, the cases from the beginning of the pandemic, when a person would tell me, I was the only one going out, Dr. Hirsch. My wife was working from home. My kids were doing school at Zoom. No one was going out at night. We had Instacart bringing our groceries. So there are sometimes these really clean histories where, okay, yeah, it's conceivable the person got it elsewhere, but most likely it's from work. But often I find I'm very frustrated at the level of detail I can put in my report that helps all of you address this issue of causation. Chronology is really important. That's a critical issue in the letter that Ms. Barrett wrote, that there's some uncertainty as to which member of the family got sick first. I think one of the cases in which I did not find work-related causation in work comp, and much to the consternation and frustration of the applicant's attorney, is that this person in question did have a plausible work-related exposure, but this person neglected to tell me in my office that her child had COVID for several days before she got sick. And why this person would not share that with me, I mean, of course, all of you can generate your own theories, but it was evident in the records. It wasn't hidden information. And so, of course, living with a person in one's own home, especially a 2 or 3-year-old child who one's going to be handling physically and helping move about and handle the symptoms of the illness, that's a drastically higher likelihood avenue of exposure compared to passing people in the hallway or having a conversation with a colleague who might or might not have COVID, right? So sometimes the probabilistic analysis weighs against work-related causation if the doctor gets enough details about what's going on in the patient's family. Okay, next slide, please. So, but I think that, again, this is really more relevant in workers' compensation because I rarely find an issue with the information I'm provided for an IME relating to LACERA. But sometimes, as you know, I think the same is true for your work, the constraints on adjusters and attorneys trying to get information to the physician, but not piles of information because of the way the record reviews are so costly for the insurance carriers and for you as well. Sometimes that effort to parse the records and thin them out really interferes with a doctor's ability to judge the case as best as possible. So again, I don't believe any sort of lecture to LACERA is appropriate in regard to getting the doctors the right information, because I think you do a phenomenal job of that. But keep it up, keep it up, because doctors really need as much detail as you can provide from that, several weeks, several months before the infection, and then obviously any real-time, any telephone evaluation by Kaiser or visit to urgent care, all of that data from around the time of the infection is critical for assessing various avenues of causation. Next slide, please. So again, a little bit of the sciencey stuff. It's desperately easy to spread this virus, consistent with other respiratory tract viruses. Coughing, I cough on my hand, I touch the doorknob on the way out. Everybody be careful, right? Little tiny mistakes like that. Millions, I believe, tens of millions of viral particles with each cough. Tens of millions with each cough. So that's how transmissible these things are, and how difficult it was for public health personnel and people trying to protect us all. It's kind of a unwinnable battle in a sense with a viral respiratory tract pathogen of this transmissibility. Next slide. So, okay, here's a critical set of data relating to the analysis of causation. Is what do we kind of expect in terms of the timeline post-exposure? As you can see, this is data from a couple of years ago. On average, it's going to take about 5 or 6 days from point of exposure to manifestation of symptoms, but it can be very short. It can be next day, and it can really be out to nearly 2 weeks. But the vast majority of cases I've seen are right in that, so to speak, sweet spot, right in that 3 to 7, 8 days after the exposure. So really rapid onset of symptoms after the alleged exposure. I'm certainly suspicious. Someone who says they got sick one day or the next day after the potential exposure, it's plausible, but it's less likely than that 3 to 5 day time range. Next slide. Categories of illness, I guess that relates kind of to the point of whether a person is capable of working or not. I have seen a few people who we'll get into a slide later, that some of you who've been doing this long enough to, in fact, I've spoken to LACERA about fibromyalgia, someone who's been doing this long enough to try and understand these issues of somatization, these issues of psychic pain or psychological distress or emotional issues manifesting as physical complaints. This is extremely common in our species, Homo sapiens, including me, of course. I don't think really anyone can honestly say they've never had that happen. So of course that's mixed in with COVID patients, as I state in a later slide. COVID patients, long COVID patients, or post-COVID, or long haulers, all the different names you hear. It's a very heterogeneous group of patients, kind of like fibromyalgia. It's a very heterogeneous group of patients. So we look at the initial illness for categories, as you see, the vast majority of people are in either asymptomatic or mild. Next slide. Right, you see the prevalence of people who get infected, and it's a pretty straightforward thing, like a flu or a cold. And I've had that, and probably most of you have had COVID, and it was maybe not pleasant, but you weren't in the hospital and you didn't get that sick. So that's where most people are. And I have, seen quite a few people who file claims of injury, even though their initial illness was quite mild. The medical literature says that, hardcore long COVID is much more common in your person who's very ill, who's hospitalized, who's maybe not on a ventilator, but in the ICU, or has pneumonia. Those lower, the category, upper parts of category 2, category 3, right? People who got really sick with it, those are by far at higher risk of having long COVID. It's not impossible that a person who just gets a sneeze and a flu-like illness for 3 or 4 days, it's not impossible that that person would end up still articulating symptoms of long COVID a year or two later. But it really is something that should trigger a physician to dig more deeply, potentially in search of other causes that would explain the complaints that are typical of long COVID, but the patient really didn't seem to have much of an initial illness with COVID. So these other categories, severe illness, obviously critical illness, those people are at much higher risk of long-term symptoms. Next slide, please. Okay, so who's operating the slides? Who's doing that? No? Oh, okay. I don't know. Okay, I was looking at them. Okay, all right, no wonder. So again, you want to talk about the severity of illness. There's a nice normal chest CT scan on the left side. Look what happens when someone has viral pneumonia. Of course, just glancing at it, a physician can't necessarily easily tell if it's bacterial pneumonia or viral pneumonia. The doctor needs a whole history to try and explain when the chest CT scan looks that ugly. But you can see how the lungs get edematous and infiltrated and full of white blood cells, and person's very sick when their chest CT looks like that. Next slide, please. More pictures of what the chest looks like in COVID pneumonia. The plain chest X-ray, 1850s technology. Okay, we've improved it since then, but very simple plain X-ray, as you could see in panel A, and the much more informative CT scans, so the rest of the panels. Next slide. So, right, kind of easy for me to explain, what organ system can COVID affect? Take your pick, right? Literally can affect every organ system. I've seen acute strokes in COVID patients. I've seen rheumatoid arthritis rising up in a new onset several weeks after a person was pretty sick with COVID. Endocrine disorders, a lot of gastrointestinal stuff. It's not, of course, we all think of respiratory. We all think of, nasal congestion, cough, throat, pneumonia, wheezy, asthma. We all think of respiratory, but truly the infection has assaulted every part of people in different cases. Next slide. So, all right, there's a hard question as well. Sometimes it's quite obvious, a lung transplant person, but I think I don't want to say it's frequent, but I think it's probably a fifth of the cases, like 20% of the cases, I'm evaluating the person and I can't quite, it's not immediately obvious to me why that person is of the mindset that they can't work, right? Looking at them, looking at their data, looking at a chest CT scan, put them on the treadmill, maybe they do all right. Not setting the world on fire, but they do all right. So it is a case-by-case analysis, and therein again, I get to my willingness to, not eagerness, but willingness to defer to the boards. I don't understand why this person feels he can't work, but also the person seems credible, and I don't have any evidence that the person is being untruthful. So I'm going to defer to the trier of fact or defer to the board. So it depends entirely on the clinical history. Often I need help from a neurologist. As I'm sure you all know, some of the most devastating consequences of long COVID are neurologic in origin, and a person could appear entirely healthy from the internal view, lungs, heart, all the organ systems, but be in my office complaining of brain fog, and walks in a room, can't remember why they walked in a room, forgetting their son's girlfriend's name. Purporting to me that that's a drastic change in their health, and it's entirely plausible. So that comes up fairly frequently. I think I said at the bottom of that slide, the most frequent specialist who I really need help from in analyzing a case is a neurologist. And then And not long after that, I think would be ear, nose, throat, and rheumatology. You know, a lot of people have the kind of fibromyalgia-like widespread pain, arthralgias, myalgias, no energy, you know, tired right away after getting up and maybe doing stuff for 2 hours. All of a sudden they feel like they've been working for 12 or 14 hours. And again, plausible, but hard for me to confirm as an internist without input from other specialists. And as I say on this slide, you know, it is definitely documented in the medical literature. Some people who have long COVID, maybe they were very sick at first with pneumonia. They had a good recovery as far as we can tell. They don't really have a lot of objective abnormality on a detailed assessment, but they're reporting really robust symptoms, constitutional symptoms like fatigue and headaches, and neurologic symptoms like brain fog and cognitive dysfunction. So it is plausible that a person would have a significant illness with COVID, and then a couple of years later be looking pretty good from my view as an internist. But in the end, with the input of a neurologist or a psychiatrist or rheumatologist, that person could very legitimately be unable to work because of those kind of, let's say, more subtle or more hidden types of human health issues that I can't draw a lab on, I can't take a picture of as an internist. And as I said here in this slide, referencing my earlier comments, this is definitely a heterogeneous group of patients. You are going to see cases of long COVID that are just quite straightforward and seem obviously easy for you to follow. And there's going to be cases of long COVID where there's a lot of psychiatric issues mixed in. And I've seen several cases where I received, not through LACERA, these were workers' compensation cases where I received sufficient medical records to note that this person had the whole chronic fatigue syndrome process going in the 1990s. And then they had the whole fibromyalgia process going from like 05 to 2015. And then all of a sudden, oh, it's long COVID that explains my dense fatigue and my brain fog and my inability to do this and that. So I see these cases, not many, a handful, a couple, where the person has had all the kind of diseases du jour, you know, the illnesses that rise up in our public consciousness and in the medical system that are also heterogeneous groups. There probably is quite a few people with real issues in that category. And then the whole diagnosis construct of chronic fatigue syndrome, which used to be quite common in the late 80s, early 90s, it's really kind of fallen on disfavor in terms of medical diagnostics. Not that these people don't have anything wrong with them, but that diagnosis you do not see trafficked nearly as much as you did at the beginning of my career. So obviously, if I have a person in my office who's saying they have long COVID and they have no energy and they can't think and they can't work, and I get their records and see they've had consistent complaints for 25 or 30 years attributed to different diseases, then that's going to be one that I really have trouble agreeing with. So it's a heterogeneous group of people, and a lot of them are straightforward. I don't mean to cast some sort of a spell over the whole thing. A lot of them are straightforward, but as I believe you will be seeing more and more people applying for these benefits through LACERA, you'll see what I mean. Next slide, please. Common symptoms: extreme fatigue. Often people will say they go to Ralph's and maybe pick up something at CVS, and they feel like they climbed a mountain. They feel exhausted and they sleep for 2 hours. Entirely plausible. The cognitive stuff, brain fog, extremely common. Along with that, you know, lightheadedness, dizziness, taste, smell. Obviously, that doesn't disable someone. What? And guess maybe a chef or someone who. But obviously, that's not really an issue in LACERA's world. And then pulmonary, cardiac complaints, extremely common. Next slide. As I referenced earlier, who's at risk? Yeah, more severe illness at the outset, much more likely to be stuck with long-term symptoms. And then, of course, as is the case with the risk for many things, the elderly person or the frail person or the person with significant comorbidities is at more risk of long COVID. Next slide. There's another useless slide, right? Yeah. What happens in long COVID? Pretty much almost anything you can name. Like I tell patients, you know, why is sleep apnea bad for you? It causes everything bad except cancer. It causes everything bad except cancer. So COVID, I mean, it really can cause anything on a long-term basis. And even in my limited, you know, solo internal medicine practice, I've seen a really extraordinary variety of strange problems that are clearly linked to COVID because of the huge credibility of the person in question, and their absolutely clean health profile before they had COVID, and then what unfolded after COVID. So I think you have to be mentally prepared that quite a variety of surprising things are rising up in long COVID. Next slide. So wherever you're gathering information about this person's capacity to work, some of the tests I think that are really useful, really essential, of course, depending on the clinical history, depending on what the person's complaining of, but the very straightforward cardiopulmonary testing, like pulmonary function tests, that blowing in the tube to look for asthma and restriction and those types of lung problems. Obviously, a high quality imaging study of the chest is often very useful in long COVID. And then something I want to talk about a little more in detail, the cardiopulmonary exercise test, CPET. Next slide, please. I'll get back to that in a moment. Most common symptoms of long COVID that interfere with people's capacity to work: nervous system issues, autonomic dysfunction, dizzy when they stand up, back to the neurocognitive, and then over to the cardiopulmonary issues that are so common. Next slide. So this is a fun test. It's fun for me. I'm not sure about the patients, but many of you probably recall when Governor Schwarzenegger greatly changed the workers' compensation system in 2004, and physicians writing medical legal reports were compelled to start rating disability using a big green book called the AMA Guides, and it was a very controversial and I think had some positives and negatives. Probably the right thing for me to say here in this setting. And one of the positives is that, believe it or not, when I started writing these reports, it was my honor to get training from Dr. Monison. Maybe some of you knew Dr. Monison. Ira Monison was kind of my mentor. What a wonderful man, passed away, and think of him fondly. So how will we rate the permanent disability of someone with a lung issue before the AMA Guides? Sir, can you walk 2 blocks? Do you get short of breath? Sir, how do you feel when you climb 1 flight of stairs? It was entirely subjective. It was purely based on the person's subjective history relating their capacity to perform certain tasks, which is obviously a really disadvantageous way to approach a question that has significant financial consequences for the individual, for the insurer. So one of the advantages that the system change that happened with SB 899 was bringing in the AMA Guides, which says, hey, if someone has a lung complaint or a pulmonary injury, or says they get short of breath for some reason, you should try to do this test if possible. Obviously, I see a fair number of people with bad orthopedic injuries. They can't get on my treadmill. They can't do this test. They have other medical problems that interfere. So it doesn't work for everybody, but you'd be amazed how often a patient will tell me about exercise limitations, and I will do this test and get a really phenomenal result. So this test is kind of like a truth machine, because if a person is physically capable in terms of back pain and knee and everything, I'm going to be able to tell if they were really trying. Next slide. So you see, it's a regular treadmill. It's just a regular treadmill, but then the person has a mask on over the mouth and nose, and the machine measures all the carbon dioxide that the person pushes out, all the O2 that they pull in, and it's measuring the respiratory rate. We can't do that on a treadmill, right? Someone's on a treadmill normally with just electrodes. We don't know how hard they're breathing. It measures the depth of their respirations, obviously panting. Quite often someone's a little bit nervous. They're partially declothed. I have a technician back there. I'm back there. We're putting electrodes on them. So many people will get nervous in that scenario. So you can often see at the beginning of the test, the person is panting, right? They're breathing in a very shallow manner because this machine is measuring the depth of their respirations. Obviously, that person usually calms down when they're on the treadmill and we start to get back to the physiologic changes in exercise, right? The breathing should get deeper and deeper and deeper. That's what happens in the normal person. And then it gets faster and faster and faster. Can I say his name anymore? I used to talk about him, Lance Armstrong. You can't say his name anymore, right? Oof. 60 breaths a minute, almost 1 a second of extraordinary depth. So a highly fit, elite athlete can get the respiratory rate up into the 50s and be taking very deep breaths. you and me, any elite athletes? No. Okay. So you and me, if everything else, no orthopedic injuries, are not getting their respiratory rate in the 30s, they're not trying. They're not trying. The average person who's unfit, just walking around the street, should be able to get his or her respiratory rate into the low 30s if they're trying. So, the great thing about this test is that you can really try and match what a person is saying about his or her exercise limitations with objective data. And as I said, it's sometimes not possible because of other issues, but quite often the types of members you would be sending to my office for this question, if it's involving the heart and lungs, we can tell. Next slide. So yeah, all right. So that you can see a relative of mine. So he knows I use his photo. And that's what the device looks like. Next slide. So what are we looking at? The key findings on the CPET. What's obviously, you've probably many of you have seen that term METS, METS, metabolic equivalence on a treadmill test. That's estimated. The doctor or the technician will estimate the energy expenditure in metabolic equivalence. Right now, all of you sitting, that's 1 MET. Of course, you're having to listen to me, and so let's move it up to 1.5, right? But 1 MET, you're sitting there, walking slowly down the hall, 2.5 METs, 3 METs, right? So we can estimate METs, great, but some of the physicians who write these analyses do have the equipment to actually measure the person's exercise capacity. That's the VO2 max. Again, any serious athletes in the room probably heard that term, VO2 max, maximum oxygen consumption. So it's really cool when I get one of your members and they're excellent athletes. So it's really fun for people because a lot of times they've heard of this testing, they've never had it done. So what is their maximum oxygen uptake capacity? And then again, another parameter we can use to judge effort is the anaerobic threshold or the ventilatory threshold. We can tell if a person's really trying. Obviously heart rate, respiratory rate. So this test gives a far greater amount of objective data if the question on the table is heart, lung damage that makes a person unable to do physical movement. Next slide. And that's the table in the AMA guides that a physician would use to integrate that data I was just mentioning. You see that very last row, VO2 max. So that data is used in the work comp system to demarcate the proper level of impairment. The data above that, diffusion capacity, FEV1, those are all from the pulmonary function test, the static resting pulmonary function test where person breathes into a tube. Only that last column is the dynamic testing, or the last row is the dynamic testing. Next slide. So there's just a year ago, mid-2025, how do we figure the risk of a person getting long COVID? So it looks like guys more than women, middle of life. And you can see that people who get long COVID end up missing a lot more work than the impact of the acute infection. Next slide. And then again, I have the references at the end of the talk. What others have demarcated as factors influencing capacity to work, right? Early treatment. I know by the time LACERA is involved, the issue of early treatment is long since passed. So early treatment, obviously the employer who can modify the job position and help the person adapt. And psychological factors, as I've said on several instances, are often intertwined with people in my office complaining of long COVID issues. Next slide. Thank you. Questions, please.
Yeah, any questions from anyone? That
I
was
have
a
a
very
question.
detailed report. We really
I have one
appreciate that in
question.
the presentation.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Do you? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go.
Do you think there's going to be any issues with people that haven't obtained, or didn't have COVID, but yet they received the vaccine?
I've seen a good question. Yeah, I've seen, in fact, saw another one recently, not 10, probably 7 or 8 individuals who had robust adverse reactions to the mRNA vaccine. Several of them had heart attacks. One of them had, a special kind of heart attack, not a blockage of a vessel that a cardiologist goes in and opens up the vessel with a stent, something called a microvascular heart attack, something happening on a capillary level. So they're having a heart attack and the doctor does the angiogram. The vessels are open. There's no blockage. It's happening at the microscopic level, kind of like the cardiomyopathy that was striking teenage boys from the vaccine. Same process, immune system, inflammation, angry tissue in the heart. So I've seen another rheumatologic type reaction, a Guillain-Barré reaction to the vaccine. So I don't think I'm not aware of late effects of the vaccine. Obviously, there's a lot of concerns about that. There's a lot of internet traffic about long-term effects of the vaccine. But I have not seen anyone with some sort of illness way out. What I've seen is vaccine-related illness happening, in the first week or two immediately after the vaccine, if that answers your question. Yeah, so I don't think there's anything down the line waiting for us, but that is an issue now, a small issue now.
Mr. Green, go.
Thank you. Yeah, these are tough ones. I got a question for legal before I get into it. We had an AB 845, which expired January 1st of 2023. Is there for that was a presumptive thing. But is it still in effect? It had to be 30 employees with 30. So but there still is that time window. If there was an infection during that time, that presumptive would metric would be.
Oh, please.
Yeah, it's no longer in effect, so it's not a law that you can base it on. However, it does provide guidelines with the amount of people exposures. So we kind of use some of the criteria to kind of figure out causation, but the law has expired. It's not something that can be a recommendation to be based on.
But in the case of long COVID, right, if there was a document exposure.
The board has to make a decision based on the law that's in place at the time you make the decision. Once the law sunsets and you're making a decision, you can't go back and rely on that.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks for clarifying. So these are tough ones for us because thank you very much. These are tough. These are tough for staff. We've had cases like this. I work in the fire department, and I can attest to you that our contact tracing absolutely was horrible. You'd have a gross exposure to an entire crew. You'd go to get tested. They go, hey, you're not on the list. Then they'd call you back 4 days later after you just exposed countless others. So yeah, I mean, you talk about how small the particulates are, and there's nothing really to prevent it other than isolation or a pressure suit, which would be fun, by the way. I might have one of those just for my own purposes. But anyway, yeah, so that's as a board, we have to make these decisions for service-connected disability, especially when it comes to cases of long COVID, and it's very difficult, because of the imperfect contact tracing and the fact that you could get exposed walking by somebody in a gas station or touch that handle. I mean, what's the latency half-life for on
quite a few hours. Quite a few hours.
Quite a few hours. So
you
fills up gas. Yeah. So yeah, it's tough. And I think as we get further away from it, but these long latency long COVID cases, and I like Trustee DeRosa's question about the impact of the vaccines. We don't have quite stuff. So it's interesting. I appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
I don't think there's a real answer that I'm seeking or whatnot. It's just it's difficult for all of us to determine something, especially if there's some type of organ failure of something.
Something bad. Yeah.
And my other question to you, there's got to be some data to support asymptomatic or deviation from the norm, right? So you have asymptomatic cases.
Often.
Many cases that develop into long-term or mild cases that develop into long-haul COVID. You brought up the valley fever that can remain, dormant in the body forever and then hammer somebody. So there is data to support long-haul cases, even with a reported mild or asymptomatic symptom?
Yeah, I'm not aware. It's a great question. Is there a case report about someone who tested positive for COVID, had no acute symptoms whatsoever, and then developed some type of set of complaints consistent with long COVID. I can't answer that. I'm not sure. I'm going to look at that. But there are certainly many cases in which people have mild symptoms. They never go to the doctor. They do telephone doctor. They're never on any real medicines, prescription medicines. They're on Tylenol or cough syrup. So there are many people I've seen who had relatively mild illnesses acutely and yet still articulate significant symptoms of long COVID down the line. So that's definitely plausible. Obviously, as I said during the talk, that type of case is going to make me look even more studiously at other potential explanations for those long-term symptoms. But it is plausible that a person will have a mild illness and still have the brain fog and my nose doesn't work and I get dizzy when I stand up a year later. That is plausible.
That's, I think, what we're as board members, we have to look at, like something that, that, and then that, the staff, everybody follows the law. That's the thing. And but because of the natural design of this thing, it's so hard to find a nexus to the workplace or not.
Yes.
Right? Does that make, you know what I mean? It could be anywhere, but it could also be everywhere.
I think the
So-
majority of the cases I've seen, and like I said, it's quite a few hundred, it has been fairly obvious, a fairly strong set of evidence to analyze causation, but hundreds of cases have been quite vague and very unclear. And so, like I said, I think my ego is involved in what I do and that I want to do a good job, but my ego is not involved in the way that I can't say, look, I as a physician, this is the best I can do. The board has to decide how this rolls.
Yeah.
So
the-
that
the
does happen.
burden of proof on the employee to articulate the exposures. Thank you very much.
Thank
It's a
you.
great presentation. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you all.
We're gonna take a quick 5-minute break and I'll start again. Where am I? Oh, yeah, the economic impact study. And I apologize, this meeting has taken a little longer than many of us anticipated. And I know you've waited very patiently, and you're dying to give us your most thorough explanation. Now, most of us have read this and seen it before. So please hit the high points for us, because we are all ears and paying attention. But don't feel obligated to extend it any longer than you feel absolutely necessary.
I think I'm picking up on the hint you're laying down.
There you
here.
go.
We're gonna keep this tight.
I love you.
Wait for Barry.
Okay, thank you, Chair Harris. Yes, so I'm pleased to present this year's updated economic impact analysis. As you may recall, back in 2022, LACERA conducted its first economic impact analysis that concerns the pension benefits that we pay out and its economic impact on the community at large. That's been a very valuable resource document for us. As Mr. Lugo noted in the CEO report, in our visits to legislators, we generally present this report to them to let them know, the purpose of LACERA and its effect on the community. So last year, we issued an RFP to get a consultant to update this report. But additionally, based on our legislative visits, an additional piece of the project was to do an economic impact analysis based on the various legislative districts, federal and state, that are within the Los Angeles County delegation. So we feel this would even enhance our engagement efforts with legislators to show how many retirees live in their districts and the impact that our benefit payments have on their districts. So I'm pleased to introduce Zenith Economics here, who updated the report for us. But before I introduce him, I would be remiss if I didn't, thank our system staff for this. This analysis depended on a robust data set. So Kathy Delano's staff were instrumental in providing this data to our consultant. And so I'd like to just, give a shout out to Ganesh Gopan Nepali, Tom DeLuca, Kunal Chowdhury, and Rebecca Sun, who is part of the team that got them the data. And when this report is completed, staff will also be strategizing on the best way to publicize this report through various communication channels and to various stakeholders. So with that, I'd like to pass it over to Zenith. We have here the project lead, Samuel Maury Holmes, and his associates, Jonathan Cahill here, and also Kevin Williams in the audience, and Michaela Kiesler as well. So I'll hand it over to Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barry. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Board, for having us. And again, my name is Samuel Maury Holmes. Myself and Jonathan were part of the research team on the original 2022 economic impact analysis for LACERA. And we're excited to be here on this lovely afternoon to present our findings and kind of go on a high-level overview of the report, which members of the board have seen. So overview, I'm going to go through quickly. Table of contents. Again, each of you has read the full report, so I won't spend a lot of time on the details here, but broadly, we're going to go over the economic and fiscal impacts associated with LACERA pension benefits, as well as some overviews of membership demographics and social impacts associated with LACERA. So everyone on the board knows this, but for the audience at home, we're going to quickly summarize LACERA. The Los Angeles County Employees Retirement Association administers retirement benefits for eligible employees and retirees throughout the county. It was established in 1938 and is one of the largest county retirement systems in the United States. We were provided this membership data. I know that earlier in the day we saw 120,000 active members. This is just amongst the subset of data that we were provided here. 98,410 active employees enrolled in the system and are included in this data set for specifically the member demographics, as well as approximately 70,000 retirees drawing pension benefits, an additional 10,400 survivor benefit recipients. Of those recipients of benefits, the majority, so of the 77,000, 63,700 are in California, and an additional 42,800 are within the county. That's an important point to note because when they are spending their pension benefits in the economy, we want to point out that the majority of that is being captured both within the state of California and within the broader county itself. So for this study, and again, each of you has access to the full methodology, which goes into a lot more detail than this PowerPoint. This analysis is an economic and fiscal and social impact analysis of spending across California, LA County, the 5 supervisorial districts, as well as some House and Senate districts, which are not presented on today. All estimates here are annualized and based off of 2025 LACERA benefit expenditure data, and that is the real data. So there's no estimates here, just the true numbers. Our methodology uses InPlan, which is an input-output modeling software, and it's the industry standard for this type of analysis. And specifically, we're using a multi-regional MRIO framework to capture cross-district commuting and trade patterns between regions where the members reside. Pension payments are modeled as a household income item flowing into consumer goods and services across the economy that pension recipient is living in. And impacts throughout this report are reported as direct effects, which would be the pensioner spending, indirect effects, which are supply chain effects, and induced effects, which are employee respending. And we'll dive into those a little bit more in detail as we proceed. So at a very high level, this is statewide economic impacts associated with LACERA pension benefits. We see $5.3 billion of total economic output, which is overall economic activity. That is inclusive of GDP, or in this case, GSP, and additionally, inputs that are in the intermediate stages of purchasing a good. We see 21,300 jobs supported, and that's inclusive of full-time, part-time, and seasonal jobs throughout the state of California. We see what those 21,300 jobs, 1.6 billion of labor income generated, and that's inclusive of benefits. And we see 1.2 billion of tax revenue generated, and that is inclusive of federal taxes as well as state and local taxes. And then specific to Los Angeles County, of that 5.3 billion at the state level, the majority of it is being captured within the county itself. So we estimate $3.1 billion in total economic output for the county in 2025, as well as over 12,900 jobs supported. Labor income of approaching $1 billion, $941 million of labor income, as well as $750 million of total tax revenue generated based off of the economic activity associated with these LACERA pension benefits. And now we're gonna get into a little bit more detail here of how that pension spending ripples through the economy. In an economic impact analysis, you are looking at the direct effect, which is the immediate spending, as well as indirect effects, which are supply chain and induced effects. And I'll give you an example here. An indirect effect would be if you purchase something from a store, that store might purchase it from another wholesaler or from a supplier, and they might have other items that they purchase from distributors in the region. And an induced effect is going to be similar to a wage or an income effect, where if someone receives money, they will go and spend it within that economy at a certain proportion, just buying things like groceries or spending money on rent. So when we break out the LA County economic impact by type, you can see that directly the LACERA pension benefits contribute to 7,900 employees within the region. We'll dive into that in a little bit more detail. And overall, the ripple effect or the multiplier effect of that spending within the county is substantial. It's not just the direct spending that matters, which is $2 billion of total economic output, but you also see an additional 1.2 billion approximately in ripple effects from these secondary, indirect, and induced effects. I'm going to go over this on a really high level. The report has 15 industries broken out, and there are many more. This is at the NAICS 3-digit level. There are a lot of industries that benefit from the spending associated with LACERA pension benefits. The top one is real estate, and that makes sense. If someone receives their pension benefit, a lot of people rent their house. And so that makes sense that real estate is kind of the top line item. Other things like food services and beverage, ambulatory healthcare, professional services, and wholesale trade benefit substantially both in employment and output from the spending, both direct and indirect, associated with LACERA pension benefits. We've already hit on a little bit the fiscal impacts. So this is the tax revenue generated by the spending associated with LACERA. And we have here statewide numbers and LA County numbers. At the state level, again, we have $1.2 billion in total annual tax revenue for that 2025 data set. And the breakdown of that 527 million at the state level go towards state and local governments. So those could be county governments, could be the state government, could be a municipality, as well as $673 million going towards the federal government. And we see a sort of similar breakout within the LA County region. So of the $750 million of estimated tax revenue generated from these pension benefits, we see that $326-ish million goes towards state and local governments. And we want to highlight that this is money that will be supporting things like schools, roads, and generally broadening the tax base of the local region. We broke out results by supervisorial district. I will skim over this, but to highlight District 5 in particular has both the most number of pensioners receiving benefits and also the largest amount of dollars being sent within that region. And there are associated economic impacts tied to that match that kind of high level number. And you can see those here. Within District 5, we're looking at about $904 million of economic output within that 2025 data set. So that is just economic activity within that region that's being captured there and being generated by the spend associated with LACERA. Yeah.
If you go back to that slide.
Yep.
Are these the numbers in the columns, the last column, is that generated based upon where the recipients live? Or did you pull, I don't know how you get to this, because I don't live in District 5, but I might come over here and buy something. So I'm not sure how that works.
Thank you, Board Member Fessler. That's a great question. And so to answer your question, you modeled the initial spending at the place where the person resides, and we had access to that data for the actual members. But then within IMPLAN and within that multi-region input-output model, there are assumptions baked into trade flows. So if you spend, X amount of money in one region, some of it will overflow or will leak out into a different region. And so for your example specifically, if you did not live in District 5, but you spent, let's say, I don't know, the sum of your benefits over the course of a year, you would expect that some, probably small amount, but some amount would end up in District 5 just through trade patterns and through workers commuting and that sort of thing. So those are all accounted for in this model, and that's a great question.
So the reason that that's so much higher in that district is primarily due to the fact that there are more retirees residing in that supervisorial district? That's the driver of the differentiation?
Yeah, that would be the biggest effect. Again, those secondary effects and kind of money rippling through the economy do play into account there. But that would be the driver, so to say, of that specific district.
Also, their retirement dollars too.
Yeah.
May I ask a question?
All the rich people live in your district. The poor people live in mine. So you have a larger economic impact.
No, I don't. I live in District 4.
Thank you. On slide, that's I don't see a number. It's the top industry supported in LA County.
Yeah.
And how, and the one previous to that, total employment is 1.29 million, correct?
Employment?
Total employment, total effect, or direct?
So this is in thousands. So it'd be 12,900.
12,900.
Then this is specific to the county.
Specific, I got you. It's 12,900 specific to the county. Generate. That's employment, and then you have the top industries, which it comes out to about 5,030 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the others?
Yeah, so for this analysis, we use the NAICS 3-digit level code, and I believe there are 79 industries at that granularity, at that level of detail. And so those impacts are spread across, the 70 or so other industries that we just didn't show, but these are the top industries in terms of output.
So that'd be cool to see. Is that in the full report?
Yeah, we included That's a great question, Board Member Green. We included a more detailed table in the report, but also we are providing as a deliverable a full Excel sheet that includes all of this data without any limits on how many. Here we're constrained by how good our eyes are.
Yeah, well, and it's great. It's a great report. I dig it. I really like it. This is fascinating stuff. But it is that aggregate, that 79, that's the majority of that 12,900. So it'd be interesting to see it at that granular level, as you said. So
yeah, and we're happy to send that to you directly with approval from Barry and legal once we have that Excel deliverable provided.
excellent. And just so I understand, employment literally means the pensioner dollars spent here has a direct or indirect effect of just people, if you have a area District 5, we're talking about, it's a destination, area gets the beaches or something like that. People are going to go there and spend money. That creates employment. And that's okay.
And that's a good point. In-plan employment is based off the place of employment. So that would be employment within the region that we're focused on when you're looking at an employment number.
Okay, thank you very much.
Perfect. So we're going to skip ahead here to membership demographics. We were provided very granular data on the membership of LACERA, both active and retired. Again, this is active employees based off the data set we provided. I believe there are some other categories of active members. But amongst the active employees that we had the data for, you see that a majority of the employees are women. This is specific to the gender compensation. Retirees are also majority women, and then survivors, perhaps a little bit morbid. Women live a lot longer than their male counterparts on average. So survivors are majority women in this situation. If we look at ethnicity by cohort, you can see that the ethnic composition by cohort, based off of what we know within the data, has changed somewhat over time to become more diverse. It is pretty clear if you look at the survivor benefits that some data, is not necessarily tracked or was only being tracked recently. But amongst active members, we can see that Hispanic or Latino members make up 34% of members, and white people make up 15%, Black or African American make up 13%, and then Asian and Filipino make up another 16%. So you can see that there's a broad range of people, both gender-wise and race/ethnicity-wise, receiving these payments, and that over time that has trended towards a more representative and diverse group of people. And we'll note a few other statistics here. We'll see that the average retiree age is 73 years with a median of 72. Most pensioners fall in the 65 to 74-year-old age range, which is consistent with what we'd expect based off of the trends in retirement and general public service retirement patterns. And the median time that a recipient has been collecting these benefits is 10.8 years. So to sum up this kind of membership diversity section and the breakdown of what members look like, we can see that there is a wide assortment of people receiving these benefits. It's not just restricted to certain groups. And then we'll get in here to the social impacts broader, and this is with an economics focus. When you are getting a defined benefit that provides you a very large amount of security relatively, as opposed to if you had your retirement in a 401k, which is exposed to market conditions much more. In the event of an upturn or a downturn, the retirees on LACERA pension benefits have a very strong understanding of what their quality of life will look like and what their annual spend will look like in a year to year. And that ties into broader counter-cyclical stability in an economic sense. If you look at a recession or depression or a period of economic boom, again, other forms of retirement can have wide variance in what happens to those retirees. Your 401k, if you look back to 2007 to 2009, could shrink a lot. And on the flip side, it could grow a lot. This defined pension allows for a little bit more of a certainty on the economic planner side that we know that a certain percentage of the population is going to be getting these defined benefits regardless of if there's an upturn or a downturn. And then finally, pensions help out a lot with workforce recruitment. There's a good amount of research, including a 2025 study, which we reference in the full report, that finds that pensions, and specifically the amount of the pension, greatly contributes to stability in an institution and employees not turning over as often. And so in terms of being able to provide a public good or service, I think that stability in employment is often seen as a positive thing to have, and the pension system contributes to that. So in conclusion, key takeaways. Within the state of California, there was $5.3 billion of statewide economic output tied to LACERA pension benefits that generated substantial tax revenue, including $750 million within LA County, some of which, a strong portion of which is collected by local governments. And then there are a large number of jobs supported throughout the state tied to this spending. So those are the key takeaways. I want to thank you very much for your time. I'd also like to thank Barry Liu for assisting and managing the project on the LACERA side. And I encourage you, if there's any questions, to reach out to Barry or myself. We're happy to answer questions. I'm actually going to open the floor now for a Q&A.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to get an idea, as people are becoming more mixed racial, mixed marriages, how are the statistics adapting?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this data, again, was provided to us by LACERA, and it seems like that question of 2 or more races has been recently added because it did not exist in some of the older data sets. So I would expect. Oh, no worries at all. But you can see that that column is recently added. It's not very visible for either the retired or survivor groups and cohorts. So I would expect that as that data collection becomes more refined over time, and as, to your point, demographics probably change, we'd expect to see that number increase.
2 or more races is such a hybrid, I mean, such a mix of all the different races. I mean, if we're breaking down by race, it just seems that 2 or more races doesn't really help us.
Mm-hmm.
It just, people who don't count towards one. I mean, it's basically what happens.
Yeah, we understand that completely. This is, I believe, the data that was collected directly by LACERA, and that's the category that LACERA has internally. So if that's a consideration, that's an opportunity potentially for future data collection. Thank you, board member.
I have something. Again, I love these things. I like the 1-page printout, Barry, that you did before, to have in pocket to communicate to others. There's a misconception that a lot of people are taking their pensions and splitting. There is a number to that, but the data is compelling to show that people that earn and work here tend to stay here and spend that money. I just was going through your report. There's been, even as recent as the latest SACRS conference we had, pension reform, and CPRS put out a study a couple of years ago regarding the unintended consequences of pension reform. And the data shows that there's an increase in this. It's a de facto hybrid model because of the limitations of PEPR. And if you look at the data over the last 10 years since pretty much PEPR was implemented, there's more use of these defined contribution plans supplementing the pension. This ties in. I feel that there's a very strong nexus to recruitment and retention. The availability of those things for the defined benefit plans is there, but as you noted in your report, they're subject to higher fluxes versus the stability of the DB. And there's case studies out of Alaska, right? Remember this, Barry, the one where they went to a whole defined contribution. I guess my question to you is as far as the future ideations of this, report, looking at that data, if it's not included now, or maybe trying to proof what I'm theorizing here, that maybe there will be some type of more of a drastic change with this or something. I don't know. I think you understand what I'm throwing out there.
No, that's a great topic of conversation. And I think in future iterations of this report, because of the way the data was provided to us on a per member basis, in theory, then you could track something like turnover, or you could track something like the stability of payments over time. And so that would be something that, again, in a future iteration could be, I think, easily included and would likely show what you're suggesting.
I think it's really the cap, right? Like that's what is being supplemented by these defined contributions, is that increase for the higher earners. They're paying, the same contribution that all contributors are, but they're not realizing it in retirement. So it's supplemented, and I don't know, it would be interesting. I don't know if it's appropriate to fold in that recruitment retention. You made a note of it, that most pensioners, 30%, and there's like a time value, like after 10 years or something, they pretty much stick with it, right?
Yeah. If
I remember correctly, but I don't know if that's prudent or appropriate for this study, but it would be interesting to see it in a future report.
Agreed. Thank you, Board Member Green.
Right. Thank you very much. All right.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, we are at
Non-consent.
non-consent. Yes, report. Under reports, we have C, D, E, F, G, and H, which are for information only. Unless someone has a question on that, we can move on to items for staff review. Do we have any?
Yes, there was a request for. Actually, no, I don't. That was IDLC.
Okay, very good. Items for future agendas. Don't think so. Okay, if we can do good of the order very quickly, because we are running out of time and we still have very important work to do. So, Mr. Pantoja, anything for good of the order? No, Mr. Wu.
Thank you. Interesting elections yesterday. At least the county is relatively stable.
Yes, relatively.
Is Jess Rivas here? I know she ran unopposed, but congratulations.
Yay. Nothing? No.
Don't tempt me with a good time. I'll be brief. Sorry. Happy Pride, everybody. Started it. Yes. Interesting elections. Yeah, that's it. Do your clearance. Everybody take care of each other and get the start of summer. So.
Then I'll say, actually, since I won't see you guys until July, happy 4th. 250 years. That's awesome. Yeah.
Excellent. I have nothing, and it moves us into disability retirement
wait,
cases
Louis,
holding. Oh, Louis, please. Anybody else out there? got
I was the
something to say?
lead-in for Lewis.
No, in the spirit of our conversation around interns, we want to introduce a few interns that have started
very
with
good.
us over the last week.
That's
So
good.
we have two legal interns that have started. So maybe if Steve and Jess can highlight them. And then we also have a member service intern that Tati will highlight.
Okay, good.
Good afternoon, Board. Jess Rivas, Staff Counsel. I want to briefly introduce our two legal interns that we're very excited to have this summer. When you join me up here, we have Sophia Hua and Angela Cooley. They are rising 2Ls. Sophia is at Washington and Lee, and Angela is at UCSF. So we're very excited to have them. They've been here a couple of weeks now. They've already been contributing and hopefully learning a lot too. So thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yes, as you know, we value our interns. So we're very glad to see a couple more on board. So that's good. With that, One more. No, it's
I'll be
never,
very quick.
never ending.
Good afternoon. My name is Tatiana Bayer, Division Manager for Member Services. I'm pleased to introduce Jessica Sandoval. She's our second intern and the second year doing internship with Member Services.
Oh, very good. Very good. Oh, she came back. Excellent. Thank you. I did apologize. Mr. Lugo, do you have anything else you want to bring up? You're good? All right. Now,
I'm scared.
yeah, I'm gun shy now. Okay, we're going to go into closed session for the remaining disability retirement cases.
You can clear out the room.